Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. My name is James Batchelor and thank you very much for joining us for these live broadcasts on the Car Dealer Magazine YouTube channel, where we talk to people right across the industry. And on today's show, I am delighted to say we've got two of the industry's much loved characters. That's the best way to describe them. We've got Jim Reid and Umesh Samani. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Badge. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Badge.
Hello. You know, it's always a pleasure to have the pair of you on because you just say things as they are, really, and you've always got a story to tell. So thanks so much for coming on. Obviously, Jim Reid is owner of Jim Reid's Vehicle Sales and Service in Inverary in Aberdeenshire, and then we've got Umesh. Not only does he own specialist cars in Stoke, but he's also the chairman of the IMDA, the Independent Motor Dealers Association. And what these chaps don't know about the motor trade isn't, quite frankly, worth knowing. So we're going to be on the air for the next 20 minutes or so. If you've got a question, then do feel free to drop it into the comments box and I'll do my best to ask it to the pair of them. But we'll start with mine. Jim, Umesh, I think the last time I spoke to you was probably a couple of months ago, really. How's the summer been for you? Let's start off with you, Jim. How's the summer been for you?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you know, ourselves in Scotland were a little bit behind, obviously, our English counterparts. We managed to reopen the 28th of June, and despite that, you know, 28th of June, we had a very good June. You know, with regards to getting the logistics right, you know, selling online, delivering vehicles, click and collect, and so on, it did very, very well during June. And we obviously reopened in the 28th, which is great. It helped massively. July was fantastic. You know, one of the best months that we've ever had. In fact, you know, for finance, it's the best month we've ever had in 18 years in business. So it's been really busy. August was a bit unusual because August we had a local lockdown in Aberdeen caused by the pubs, you know, opening very suddenly and everybody queuing with a 20 centimetre distancing rule on the looks of things, and it caused major mayhem. And Aberdeen was locked down for a 3-week period. And the knock-on effect was there's obviously less people on the go. And it took us by surprise a little bit. That, along with the fact that the schools were back. And that normally affects us by about a week because it's like on a day that they go back in one day. But of course, this year they staggered them. You know, it was a staggered approach for both schools and nurseries and so on. It was over like a 2-week period. And that has again affected us during August. But, you know, September's bounced back, you know, barring the fact that we're struggling like everybody in the world, it seems, with the stocking situation, having the lowest stock I've likely had for the last 20 years, it seems to be. But you know, barring that, September's been fantastic so far. So yes, it's been a very, very healthy summertime batch.
Yeah, and probably an awful lot better than we could have envisaged when we started the lockdown in March and April, really. So
wow, I mean, you know, when you think back in April, I mean, sitting in my house in April thinking, wow, what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? You know, how do I dispose of stock? You know, rather than, you know, just to open the place up and it sells. You know, yes, absolutely, completely different mindset as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and how about you, Umesh? How's it been for you?
Do you know what? Exactly, pretty much what Jim said. Echo exactly that. So again, you know, March, April, none of us knew what was going to happen. We opened the doors, obviously, 1st of June in England, and it's been just an incredible, you know, roller coaster ride. But we're at the peak of it. It really is at the very top. July has been the best month in 23 years of trading for me. So it's just phenomenal. You know, it's just. But I think everybody's saying the same thing. You know, we're all having this fantastic summer. None of us wanted it to end. Incredible. August is very, very good as well. And this month, September, again, very, very good. I think we're all sort of riding the crest at the moment. Long may continue, but I think in reality, we don't know what's going to happen. But certainly, again, like what Jim says, stock-wise, this is probably the lowest number of cars I've got as well. So I think, again, it's a national thing for all the dealers. We're all struggling for decent stock. Without getting carried away paying silly money, because at the end of the day, I think we've got to be careful with continuing selling the cars at profitable margins, really.
Yeah. So with July, both of you say, you know, there were record months for you. Were you doing that with all your staff back, or were they? Do you still have some people furloughed, or did you have people off, or What was the makeup of the business during that time?
Far away, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, for ourselves, Batch, we planned it out very gradual coming back, and we got all our staff members back. So we got back our workshop first, and then we got back the sales team secondly. So in the middle of July, bang in the middle of July, I think it was the 14th of July, we managed to get back our last employee back on board full time, and we've managed to do that obviously and keep them all on which has been, which was my goal. That was my main personal goal, was to get all the staff back and have them, continuing employment. So, yes, I mean that's it's made us look at things differently and likely the makeup of what people are doing as individuals within the team, and we've maybe changed their roles ever so slightly. That has definitely been part and parcel, but when you see, I'm pretty active in LinkedIn, Batch, and when you see the amount of redundancies there's been in this industry, it's really heartbreaking, isn't it? It's terrible, really. When you consider, we're on this crest of a wave. It's unbelievable that we're selling this amount of cars within our industry, yet there's so many redundancies in the sector. I think it's almost unbelievable, isn't it? So
yeah, and also, quite a few businesses have made people redundant because they're saying, the lockdown period has allowed them to invest more in online technology, and they sort of have a question mark over actual physical, human beings doing jobs, which I sort of struggle to get on board with, really, because, surely, you'd like to think that investing in online systems can work, hand in hand with physical jobs, can't it? And it should be seen like that. But other businesses perhaps are using the lockdown period as a bit of an excuse to actually get rid of people. It's different for everyone, but there have been some really sad stories recently.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the actual, people still need to be employed, Patch, but I think maybe what's happening is, with the online sales, for instance, maybe a salesman is being, laid off, but maybe there's a driver getting taken on, so maybe it's a net zero for the amount of people, and obviously the reduction on that wage, because obviously drivers get less than a salesperson, I would have suggested. That's maybe where the balancing act is and the saving for the company is. But you're absolutely right. The more cars you're selling, because the reality is you should still be selling more cars by doing it online, it should mean that there's more people still involved with the actual sale of the vehicle, with driving and logistics and cleaning and so on and so forth, so.
Yeah. And Umesh, are you fully back up to speed now?
They're pretty much made. Obviously, on the sales side, there's just more. That's it, So that's full speed ahead on that one. On the workshop side, everybody's back in again. So everybody's all sort of all muddled in. We're all getting on with it, all full stuff again. But I think just going back to a lot of businesses where the redundancies are. I think, as you say, some of it's a bit of an excuse to get rid of some of the staff. I think that a lot of businesses have realised they can probably work on 75% of the staff now. Everybody's working harder, and I think the employers are probably expecting some of the staff to also not moan and whinge and probably step up a little bit because they're scared of the jobs. So I think everybody's probably been more efficient. There's better systems in place as well. So I think it's a combination of all of it. But as you say, sadly, there's going to be a lot of casualties out there as well. So I think we've got to just be careful, they don't streamline too far back, because then customer services suffers, and then inevitably the business gets suffer, isn't it, really? We still hear stories of, where dealers aren't getting back to customers for whatever service, repairs, sales, whatever. So if they're not careful, yes, we've got this massive, sales surge, but in reality, sometimes got to balance out, hasn't it? And those staff may need to come back, but might be too late for some of the employers.
Yeah. And the irony is that with a lot of online systems, customers expect even greater levels of customer service, don't they? Because they deem it to be an easier way to actually transact and do business. When if something goes wrong, they want somebody to be at the end of the phone sorting it out for them. And of course, there is a big concern. We're going to be talking about this in depth on Wednesday. On our next show, we've got logistics on one of our legal shows. Of course, next month, the end of the furlough scheme ends. there's a huge worry that at the end of October there's going to be another influx of big job redundancies, and it's going to be sort of very heartbreaking to see where the axe falls on those. But Jim, you've experienced something which a lot of dealers thankfully haven't had to experience. In parts of Scotland, Wales, and in large parts of England as well, the local lockdowns. So just take us through for the benefit of the viewers who haven't had to undergo a local lockdown. What was it like? Were you given advance warning? Did you still have some business? What was it like for you?
Okay, so I mean, the lockdown. So what you've actually got in our area, if you're not acquainted with the Scotland area, but you've got Aberdeen City, which is a city council themselves, and we've got Aberdeenshire Council as well. And they're two different places. So we're actually based in Aberdeenshire, which we're outside the city centre itself. So roughly speaking, you've got about 200 to 250 to 300,000 people within Aberdeen, and you've got the same again in Aberdeenshire. Yeah. However, a lot of people commute from Aberdeenshire into Aberdeen City. Normal case scenario. It's obviously changed slightly of late, but also there's a lot of people from Aberdeen City will commute to Aberdeenshire. So there is, it's very, very much linked. Our basis, because we are very much on the brink of Aberdeen, we're only 12, 15 miles, 12 miles from the airport, for instance. We are affected massively by it because obviously customers could not come out to ourselves. They were not allowed to come out. So they were given notice of, I believe it was on the 12 o'clock on whatever day it was, a Tuesday, I think it was. And by the 5 o'clock, the pubs and the restaurants were told to close. And people were told not to come out their houses or not to travel out of the houses for more than 5 miles from their address, unless it was for work purposes. So that was the basis. Now, how we overcome that is because we were actually in the Shire, and obviously we were still managing to pick up and collect customers' cars for the services, and do it obviously socially distanced and nice and safe with the whole anti-back thing and covers and so on, and then deliver them back once they were serviced. So we managed to continue with those business. The sales side of things was the bit it suffered most, because people couldn't come out and see cars. What they were basically saying is, I'm interested in this car, I'm quite happy with the video that you actually sent across and the controls and the deal. I still like to have a wee drive in it. I'm not allowed to come out and you're not allowed to come in. So it's one of those catch-22s. So that was the basis of that 3-week period, which, as I say, did affect us, and I believe would have affected a lot of the car dealers in this area,
Yeah. And thankfully, for a lot of parts of the country, they haven't had to go through that. But it's very possible. So it's good to know what it's like. But that must be very frustrating. You've got people interested in the cars, and yet you can't actually sell them. But I suppose in some ways it does actually qualify those leads to a certain extent, doesn't it? Because if somebody's they've watched the video and they're clearly interested in the car, they're less likely to be tire kickers, I suppose, are they?
Definitely.
They're proper buyers.
Yeah. So one of the big, I suppose, highlights of the whole COVID pandemic is the fact that the online presence side of things and using technology with regards to video and things like that does definitely set up a better chance of selling. Yeah. So your conversion rate must or should be much better, because people are almost committing, but just maybe committing once they've had a wee test drive in the car. So you're almost there anyway with it. So your conversion rate's much better. However, there is a downside to it as well. And I've explained it to my guys, and I'm sure Umesh will agree with this as well. One of the downsides of this, where somebody at home, like yourself, at home, you're looking through obviously all the cars and you're thinking, yeah, this one will actually do 100%. But we're still not qualifying you as a customer, because you've picked that car, you're coming in to drive that car, you've done all your research on that car, so you think you've actually, done that right.
Yeah.
However, maybe the question is, no one's actually questioned why you decide to go for a diesel over a petrol. How many miles are you doing per annum? Did you realise it's got diesel particular filter fitted to the car. That may well have an issue if you're only doing 5,000 miles a year and you're in the city, city centre of Aberdeen. These questions aren't getting asked. So that has got an issue. That's got a knock-on effect. Not only are you maybe wrongly selling a car to somebody that doesn't fit their purposes, it also can have a knock-on effect for people coming up against reasons why not to buy a batch as well. When it gets to that objection point, because they've actually made the decision to come in because they've done all the research and they maybe just don't like to drive in the car. So it's got its challenges. It's got its challenges, but conversion rates tend to be up slightly better than they have been. So there is a plus.
Yeah, Umesh, I mean, we've spoken about it many times. You've been a champion of videos and using that in the sales process. I mean, what do you think? Do you agree with what Jim's saying there? Similar experience?
A similar experience, as you say. Most people, to be honest with you, personalized videos, sell the cars. But as Jim said, I had a perfect example on Friday. I sourced a car for one of my customers, a Seat Ateca. They came to pick it up, and his wife's thinking of changing the car. And he said, "Oh, quite like that B-class Merc, but I can't do a test drive." And I said, "Why can't you do a test drive?" And she said, "Well, with all these sanitizing, and I've obviously got signs in the showroom as well about just doing test drives for the sake of it." And I said, "Look, it's not a problem. Have a test drive, see what you think." But the fact that she was already scared of asking for a test drive, because we're all saying you can't just have test drives for the hell of it. Hold on a minute. If they want to buy a car, we still have to do the test drives. And we just got to re-clean the car, sanitize it. It's not a problem. But I think there's probably customers out there who are quite frightened now and think they almost have to commit, as Jim said, to the car, which could be potentially the wrong car, And again, we do the videos, we show the car, but until you sometimes sit in the driver's seat, you don't know if that seat's comfortable or not, do we really? We're just taking you that you're going to fit in that seat and it's going to be perfect for you because you've seen the video, you've seen the images or whatever, but it doesn't suit everybody. So I think, there's people out there who we're probably missing out on as well, who would normally have come out, have a look, and have a browse around and then just fall in love with the car, have a drive and bought it. So, yeah.
And Jim, if you found that you've had a few customers who are a little bit hesitant, they're quite scared about all the safety restrictions and the government guidance, and I'm sure you've had other customers who couldn't care less, really, could they? So there's been a real cross section of customers.
You do indeed. I mean, it is. It's funny. We shouldn't laugh because the whole pandemic thing. But I mean, the regards how people treated differently is you've got polar opposites, haven't you? You've got people who will not go outside their house. You've got to give them major detail about what you're doing, especially the service side of things. When we are, collecting a car from the drive, we've got to, spray the keys, with alcohol and, all the covers and things like that. And again, sanitize the car before putting it back. We do it all properly, 100% properly, yet you still get people, who are, very anxious about the whole situation. And yet you've got other ones. And I remember, there was a customer in, sitting, with her mask on, believe it or not, and they actually said this, which is really, really quite unusual. And they were actually sitting at the desk, and I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" And it's fine. And they were buying a car, and I said, "Well, thanks very much for this." And they said, "Isn't it great to be back to normal?" And I looked at them and I thought, how normal is normal when you've got a mask on, sitting in a showroom behind a sneeze screen? It's crazy, isn't it? But they classed it as normal, so there you go. It maybe is normal. It's
quite bizarre, actually, because I had a lady last week and the whole family came. They've got masks on in the showroom, test drive the car, they bought the car. She paid me the deposit, sitting in my office with a screen up there as well. She got a mask on. And then she had to put her hand out. She says, "Thank you for the business." And I said, "I can't shake your hand." But the fact that she's all there protected, mask on, but she actually wants to shake the hand. And I said, "Sorry, but we can't do that." She says, "Oh, yes, I forgot." But it's just strange. As you say, it's just getting adapted to all these things, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And as we all know, a car purchase is a big purchase in someone's life. And if you don't agree it with a handshake, it somehow doesn't feel quite right.
It feels strange, doesn't it? It feels bizarre, really. Yes.
Yeah. So, what kind of cars are selling at the moment? Or what kind of cars have you been selling the most of, or getting the most amount of inquiries, throughout the summer period? Jim, let's start with you.
It hasn't, have things changed massively with regards to what we're getting asked for? We're obviously known for that kind of sporty range of car, the Focus RS, the Golf R, the Golf GTI type of thing. Some four-wheel drive, stock, that kind of mild four-wheel drive, the all-wheel drive, Kuga, Tiguan, that type of thing. We've had slightly more people looking for a cheaper car, but slightly more than the normal, that £3,000 to £5,000 car. I wouldn't say it was massively that way, or we would have looked at that as being a potential, what we would look into. But we haven't invested our money. We're still trading on these cars as we normally do. What I will say is the trade guys who buy these cars from us, they are massively busy. So there is obviously a marketplace, even more so for that kind of up to £5,000 car, because they're managing to sell them really quickly. Although we are not getting any more inquiries about them, but it's maybe because we're known for what we are locally, So yeah, I mean, stock's still selling. Last week we sold a £40,000 Audi RS3, 19 plate, and we sold all £4,000 car, which is nice and clean. So it's a mixture in between. Because I wouldn't say anything's changed, with regards to our stock profile, and likewise. I mean, however, when I say about obviously stock profile and buying cars, we're very specific with up to 4 years old, up to 30,000 miles. That's what we buy. And I was just giving Umesh and Stuart the laugh the other day there that we've changed the profile to now asking the question, has it got four wheels? And we will buy it. So that's how desperate things have actually got in. But so.
And Umesh, if you experience something similar, is it?
Batch, there's really no pattern to it. To be honest with you, I mean, I've probably sold more higher end cars in the last few months than I've done previously. It's just I got offered them. I thought, right, just take the chance and buy them. So Range Rover Sport SQ5, £30,000 plus cars, and the smaller ones, £3,000-4,000. I haven't got many either, but not many people are particularly asking for them either. So I think it's been slightly higher range for me than normal, but it's just the stock maybe I've got at the time. So no particular pattern, I wouldn't say, but I think there will be a demand for, I think, the cheaper end when, again, different things change. People have got PCP deals, no job or change of jobs, and just scaling back on payments on that. So, but I think general stock is short at all levels, but I think that it might be more so in the lower end, I suppose, of the price range. Yeah.
Yeah, Umesh, I know you don't buy cars from auction, but generally speaking, though, has it been difficult to get hold of stock? I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, but is it still difficult? Is it people still approaching you with cars that they want to sell to you?
Absolutely. The number of calls that I get now compared to a few months back, definitely less. Probably 50% less, to be honest with you, on that. So yeah, 100%. It is less inquiries come in to people wanting to sell cars, maybe hanging on to longer, maybe the new cars aren't coming through. So which is making it obviously more and more difficult to get them in. I bought one yesterday. I'm picking one up tonight, which will be again all privately. But there's less and less coming through. Definitely. Yeah.
How about you, Jim?
I completely ignored your question there, but I'll tell you why. My dog started to bark outside me.
That's just
apologies. That is rude, isn't it? You'll have to run it past me. I apologise.
Well, Umesh is actually saying how much he despises you, actually. But,
that's who I was texting just now.
No, Jim. Well, we're talking about acquiring stock. And do you use auctions? Do you are you struggling to find stock? And why do you think all of this is? And how frustrating is it all at the moment?
So like you, Umesh, we prefer to buy from the private individual, and that's what we've been known for. We've always done that. We'd rather go through, all the classifieds and find something local that we can actually see, buy, test drive, and whatever. And that's definitely the best for us. So we've always done that, and we'll continue to do that. That is even drying up because what you tend to find is, some of the companies who are like third-party companies who then sell on to the trade are up here, pinching our cars locally to sell to the guys down south. So I mean, we're in that kind of kind of funny situation. Auctions, auctions is a difficult one, isn't it? It's always a difficult one with the auction side of things, because you can't see, feel, and especially just now where it's obviously a remote access to the auctions. Don't like buying from auction, to be quite honest with you, but that's just my choice of things. Remarketing groups, stock's drying up, and what is available, you're having to pay good money for. But we've, I suppose, back to the reality side of things, we've always had to pay good money for good stock, so that's never changed. So you've just got to fork out for what you think's going to sell, and it's never been more important now than to work out. The guide has got very little relevance at this point in time, so you've just got to go, how much can you get for that car, and basically roll it back to what you think the margin should be across it to get yourself a decent margin. And I think that's the important part, is retail back is definitely the way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, but you were saying earlier on that you've got some gaps in your forecourt at the moment, and I mean, how much of a worry is that for you, or are you just of the view, look, it'll sort itself out eventually? Yeah,
well, I think it will. But I think coming into this back end of the year, where winter will be a long winter, I think for a lot of us, I'm just kind of I could quite easily go out and buy another 30, 35 cars, no problem at all. However, I'm not going to at the wrong money, because as soon as there's a resurgence of this pandemic, which there will be, let's be real, there will be, it's as simple as that. It's just when it's going to be, it's not if it's going to be. So that you've got to plan around about how you're going to do that. We've had the practice first time round in March, April time. We've now got a better handle of how we're going to do that. But stocking up where you can't cash in stock and you don't have any money in your bank because you're fully stocked, that is the worrying part. That's the most worrying part you've actually got, and that was the most worrying part when it happened, obviously back in March time. You can't liquidate your cars quick enough to get cash back in. So that that's the thing that I think most dealerships should actually be looking at now, and keeping that level of stock maybe just under what you normally have at this time of year, because you've obviously got some liquidity obviously in your account as well. But the famous old saying is, you can't sell spaces, so you've got to have cars in stock. My worrying thing, Badge, is when I come back from Aberdeen, I say to Phil, Phil, I've managed to buy 2 cars, all proud of myself. And he says, that's good, Jim, because we've just sold 3. And then you go, well, you're back in a negative situation again, aren't you? So, yeah, difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. And Umesh, I mean, you're chairman of the IMDA. I mean, dealers saying similar things to you about all of this? Are they a little bit frustrated, or they're quite sort of relaxed about it?
No, I think, again, the feedback we're getting from the dealers, exactly the same scenario. I think we're all in the same boat in reality. Stock is short, a decent stock is short. Those dealers who do buy from the auctions, pretty much all having the same conversation, is like, you're paying over the odds, and sadly, most of the cars are not as described. So it's a double whammy. They're paying a lot of money to get the stock onto the forecourt, and then the cars arrive, they're not as described. They're having to either prep more, spend more, reducing the margins. So I think that's a frustration with most of the dealers out there. I suppose the auctions at the moment, they're in a great place, aren't they? They're laughing all the way to the bank, because less staff, all virtual. But I think if they're not careful, I think some of the auctions might get boycotted from little conversations I keep hearing out there. So it is tough out there, but we need to fill the forecourts to a certain degree.
Oh, it's Umesh gone.
Sorry, no, I'm still here. Sorry, just a call.
I've got Jim ignoring my questions.
That was a BBC one to me, and I said, sorry, I'm talking to Badge, I'm busy.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yeah. No, so I think, the frustrations are with every single dealer. The fact that, that everybody feels they can sell everything they get their hands on, and they could make lots more money in the meanwhile, but they can't get the stock. And they're paying over the odds for poor stock quality. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to the pair of you, and hear what's going on and your views of the trade at the moment. Thanks so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it.
Very welcome, Badge. Thanks for having us on there. So, with the IMD, obviously we're out there to help dealers and support dealers. But one thing which I would say, obviously, with all the redundancies in the motor industry, we've got support of Ben. So some, staff out there who might just be feeling a little bit down.
Yeah.
Ben's there to support. We've also got a couple of guys on the IMDA, Steve Whitten, who can probably help with just a conversation. And obviously, I'll say this, just unprompted. Jim and I are both here as well. So whoever wants to talk about anything, have a conversation, here to help and support anybody who's out there. But thanks for having us on. Yeah.
No, it's always a pleasure. And, any dealers who want to find out more about the IMDA, isn't it imda.org.uk, is it? Or is it?
No, the imda.co.uk.
.co.uk. So, take Jim and Umesh up on that offer. Have a chat like I've just done, because, it's always good fun. Anyway, Jim, Umesh, thanks so much for coming on. If you want to be involved in a show just like this one, please do email me, james.batchelor@blackballmedia.co.uk, or my colleague, James at blackballmedia.co.uk. We're back on Wednesday. We're running one of our special legal shows with not with Umesh.
I'm here.
One of our special legal shows with logistics. If you do want to get involved, do send your questions ahead of time. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.